Hey, what's going on, guys? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today I have the GPD XD Android gaming device to test out. So GearBest sent me this for review. I am not paid by GearBest whatsoever. They only sent me the unit for review. I've been wanting to get one of these devices for a long time. I've had a lot of my viewers ask me if I'd ever get one to do a review, and finally, I can do it now. So let's go ahead, get this thing unboxed, and test it out a little bit. So inside of the box, it looks pretty plain. We just get a US wall charger, a USB cable for syncing and charging, and the GPD XD. It looks just like a 3DS XL. Pretty cool. On the back side of the unit, not much. I have the 32GB model and it's marked with a little sticker. I went ahead and put a 128GB SD card in it to see if it works, and sure enough, it does. So on the back side here, we have an SD card slot, the charging port, a mini HDMI, and the 3.5mm audio jack out. There's also 4 buttons on the back here. We have R1, R2, L1, and L2. So the L2 buttons are in a weird location. You kind of got to reach over the L1 and R1. I'm sure this is something I can get used to. So this is a really nice looking Android device. I cannot wait to get some emulators up and running on this. Let's go over the specs real quick. The CPU is a Rockchip RK3288 quad core. It's an ARM Cortex A17. The CPU is capable of 1.8 GHz, but it's underclocked in this unit to 1.4 GHz. The GPU is a 4-core Mali T764 MP4 at 600 MHz, 2 GB of DDR3 RAM. Wi-Fi does not support 5G, but all the other bands will be supported. It does run an older version of Android 4.4.4, and I'm not sure if they're ever going to update it past that. But with the skin they have laid over it, you wouldn't really notice that it's an old operating system. It feels quick, and it looks pretty good. The screen is a 5-inch Capacitive Touch HIPS display. It's running at 720p, but it looks really good for being a 720p display. And because it's an HIPS display, viewing angles are really great. I mean, I can set this thing almost completely sideways and see the screen perfectly. The battery is 6,000 milliamp hours. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but I've seen online from 5 to 9 hours depending on what you're doing. Obviously, if you're stressing the CPU, it's going to die a lot quicker. I have the 32GB model. They also make a 64, and I've seen a 128GB model. I'm not sure if that was a special edition Kickstarter or not, but 32GB should be plenty. It does have an SD card slot that supports up to 128GB. That's exactly what I threw in this as soon as I opened it up. So I went ahead and booted it up. The screen looks great. Even though it's 720p, it looks amazing. It's that IPS display. Viewing angles are awesome. The other good thing about this screen being 720p, it's not stressing the GPU and CPU as much as it would if it had like a 1080p or a 4K display. That's just my opinion. I mean, I know people want a really high resolution display, but I got this mainly for retro gaming. 720p is going to work out fine. So I really like the button layout. We have A, B, Y, X, 2 analog sticks. We have L3, R3, got a D-pad, start, select, your back, your home button, volume control. We also have this button here. If you have a game that does not support a controller, you press this and you can set up the controls for that game. So if it's only a touchscreen game, this is a really awesome feature on the GPD XD. On the back, we have 4 trigger buttons, and we also have mini HDMI out, so you can plug this into a television and do 1080p if you want to, but I'm going to stick with 720 when I record the screen. Let's move over there now. Alright guys, so I got it all plugged up to HDMI. I did set the resolution back down to 720p. It will go to 1080, but I wanted to get the same performance we would by playing it on the built-in screen. So I'll go to HDMI, resolution, 1280 by 720. That's what this screen runs at, so that's what we're going to be running at through HDMI right now. So as you can see, there are some games built in. We have it on Flash. So this is the arcade games here, N64, SNES, 1 Dreamcast game, 1 PS1 game. Now you can always add your own emulators in here, but I find that this N64 emulator works so good. I did also install some other applications so I can show you some benchmarks and some gameplay with other games besides emulators. The first thing I want to do is test some N64 here. Now I can tell you that arcade runs really good, so you won't have any problem playing any arcade games like Metal Slug, Blazing Star, King of Fighters, things like that. N64 is where our Pi struggles a lot, so let's go ahead and start Conker's Bad Fur Day and see how this performs. Alright guys, so here we are with Conker's Bad Fur Day. This does run a modified version of MUPIN. At least I think it's modified because it runs so well. Now I've had a hard time getting this to run on a lot of different Android devices, even Android devices with more power than this unit. And as you can see, it's running pretty smooth. You're always going to get some lag here and there with any kind of emulation. Well, with any kind of N64 emulation, but this is amazing that it's running N64 this well. So Conker's Bad Fur Day is a very problematic game on the Raspberry Pi and other Android devices that do emulation. So this was one of the reasons I wanted to test this game first. I just lost some chocolate. But I'm very surprised it's running so well. We can just go ahead and press back, exit. Now I'm going to switch to my SD card. I have a 128 gigabyte SD card in here. Oops. And I have a ton of games on here, but the next game I want to test is 007 GoldenEye. And I'm going to restart the game because I've already played through the first level. Well, most of the way through. And it works great. Alright, so here we are. Get used to this analog stick here. It does work pretty well. It's a little small compared to the controllers I've been using for the past, years and years. I've been using bigger analog sticks. So I'll get used to this one over time. But it's very comfortable in the hand. Very reminiscent of the Nintendo 3DS XL. Blow them away. Runs really good. I'm super surprised, so I'm pretty sure this is a modified version of MUPIN. I'm not sure how they modified it or what they did, but somehow they got these games running a little better than they do on other Android devices using the same emulator. There we go. Pretty sweet if you ask me. I'm going to back out of here. Next up, Dreamcast. So like I said, I'm going to let you know, arcade, SNES, PS1 is going to run perfectly on this unit. It runs perfectly on a lot lower end units. So what I want to do is test N64 like I just did, and also test some Dreamcast games. So I'll do Sonic Adventure 2 here. I will have to turn the music off or the sound off for this game because it is copyrighted music and there's no way just to turn the music off. Whoa. This is using Recast R6, and I haven't tested R7 on it. It could run better, it could run worse. But this game is definitely playable. I did test Shimu, if that's how you want to pronounce it, and it does work, but there's a lot of graphical glitches. And it takes about an hour to get into some gameplay, so for me to make that video is just, I'll have to do that later on. If you're really interested in it, I will make a dedicated video. So it's handling this game pretty good. You're always going to run into games that are incompatible with Recast. If you know of a list, let me know in the comments below because I've never found a real compatibility list with Recast or for Recast. So here's Power Stone. Let's go ahead and try this. So one of the gripes I have about the built-in emulators here, there's no way to display the FPS on screen unless you get a different emulator from the App Store. I can tell you right now, this is definitely running at full speed. Sonic was running at about 50 to 55 FPS. It did drop down a little bit. And the only reason I know this is because I have played all of these games so much on different devices, I can kind of feel how the game's running. So it's really good performance for this Rockchip. And it being portable, man, this thing feels good in the hand. I'm not sure how long the battery lasts. I have heard up to 8 hours. I can't confirm that yet. But I've been messing with it for a long time out in the living room, and I'm at, I think, about 80% on my battery. And I've had it on for about 2 hours messing around. Let's get out of this game here. There's some other stuff I have here. I'm just going to show you the Antutu that I ran. 41,258. Not too shabby. I mean, I got a lot of single board computers that score around 25,000, so this is on up there. So go with Asphalt Extreme real quick, might as well. I'll just run through here real quick. I had to turn the sound off because these are copywritten songs on here. I don't feel like going through this game. It does work pretty well. This is just the beginning, the tutorial, so it's going to tell me to do some stuff here. Let's try Bully Scholarship Edition. So here's Rockstar's Bully. Press start here, and I'll show you what kind of settings this thing's running at. They're just all on stock. I mean, all you really have is the clarity setting. Let's go to high. Pretty decent. So I also have San Andreas, but I haven't installed it yet. Just takes a long time to download. I do have that 128 gigabyte SD card, so I can load this thing up. So Bully should run pretty good. Most of these Rockstar games, like San Andreas, should run at least medium settings on here with no trouble at all. I want to do some more videos on this unit. I've only had it for a day and a half now, but I can tell you my initial thoughts. This thing is awesome. It's well worth the money. If you don't have something portable right now, this is a great option for you. Now I'm going to leave links down below to GearBest. I think it's the cheapest on GearBest, and I'll leave links to Amazon also. Like I said, if you guys can get me a list together of PSP, Dreamcast, N64 games, I will do another video very shortly, probably by Monday if you guys come up with a good enough list here. I'll get everything loaded up and do it. Also want to test out some Moonlight, video playback, things like that. So I will have a couple more videos coming up very shortly on the GPD XD. If you guys could, hit that like button and subscribe. And like always, thanks for watching.